Welcome back to Sports Night. My name is Justin Zach alongside Alex File, and we're going to jump into Hold Up. Who do you think deserved that last college playoff spot? We saw Oklahoma get in today, but it's still questionable whether that was the right decision or not.
Right. Well, it's obviously a tough decision for the committee to make. They had to choose between a really competitive Georgia squad that fell just short of Alabama. They had to deal with UCF, which was undefeated and is looking to claim another national championship, although that will be heavily disputed, of course. Yeah. Ohio State squad that just routed Northwestern and University of Michigan a few weeks ago. And, of course, Oklahoma, who won the Big 12 championship against Texas. To me, I think Oklahoma deserved it. They're one of the most prolific offenses that I have seen in a long time. Kyler Murray's a fantastic talent, and they got playmakers at the receiver position. Hollywood Brown, CeeDee Lamb. I like the team overall. I think Lincoln Riley's got a really competitive squad. Definitely rivals what they had last year with Baker Mayfield under center. Obviously tough to exclude Georgia after how well they played Alabama, but I think they made the right decision in keeping Oklahoma at the 4.
Yeah, I respect that. I mean, Oklahoma took care of business. They won their conference championship game, and when they only lost one game the whole year, which they avenged their loss to Texas. But I think Georgia really, I know they lost that game, but I really think they proved that they could hang with the best team in the nation that nobody's came nearly close to. They routed LSU on the road. It seemed like complete Alabama domination. But Georgia showed them up for about 3.5 quarters, and I think if it's not for a highly questionable fake punt call that everyone's still scratching their heads about,
certainly,
I think Georgia takes care of that game and they win.
Wow.
And I think if they could beat Alabama, they belong in the playoffs.
Right.
I know.
Well, that may be the case, but they had to win that game. They had to win that championship game in order to have a legitimate, undisputable bid to be in the college football playoffs. But they lost. So I think to reward them by playing well, even though they came up short, I think would not be fair to an Oklahoma team that did win and won their conference championship.
It's just I just feel like the record doesn't show it all. I feel like Georgia dominated their games all season, and then they barely blew that game against Alabama. Meanwhile, Oklahoma, they won all their games, but they won some really tight games, and they give up a lot of points.
Certainly.
That is a leaky defense that should cause them trouble in the playoffs.
Look, they let up 400-plus yards against Texas yesterday, but they held them to 27 points. And if you watch them, they made big plays when it counted. They got stops on 4th down. They got a pick in the at the very end of the game to shut down Texas's last second drive. I mean, Sam Ehlinger played very well, but I think that Oklahoma defense under Ruffing McNeil is improving significantly than when they had Stoops a few weeks back.
I think there's got to be more consistency, though.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. All right. Up to the next topic, Monday Night Football. Eagles-Redskins divisional matchup. Redskins are 6.5-point dogs, I believe. Jay-Z, who you got in that game?
All right, I like the Eagles here. I think this is just one of those division rival. So the Eagles, the Redskins are 6-5. The Eagles are 5-6. This is like a must-win game for the Eagles. They got it at home, Monday Night Football. See, we're on the back stretch of the season. And I think they could take care of business here. I don't trust Colt McCoy. He's been okay so far, but I think he threw 3 picks last week. That's not going to suffice on the road in a division rivalry game. Meanwhile, it's only a matter of time before the Eagles pick it up. You saw them last week. Slow start, but the defense held a good Giants offense in the second half. Carson Wentz led a comeback. I think that's going to give him some momentum. Josh Adams is trending up. He's a weapon. And I think Golden Tate and Carson Wentz find their chemistry soon. I like the Eagles.
Well, listen, I think the Eagles certainly, when you look at the team on paper, they should be killing this Redskins team, right? I mean, the Redskins are big up front. They dominate in the trench, and they try and win at the point of attack. But they got injuries all over this roster. So I have questions about how well they're going to be able to execute with some of these second and third string guys. That being said, the Eagles are a team that's also being ravaged by injuries, and they're having trouble executing at the line of scrimmage. They're having trouble executing at the point of attack. So I think this is a game where we're going to see both teams getting exposed on defense especially. I mean, the Redskins, right, they're trying to come at you with zone coverages, right, and they want to force Carson Wentz to throw to the open man, right? And so far this year, he hasn't really shown the ability to do that. The Eagles have been struggling. I question how far along Carson Wentz is from that ACL injury just a few months back. I think the Eagles, are probably the better team, but I think the Redskins have as good a shot in coming into Philadelphia and challenging a team that is pretty weak on both sides of the ball.
I think the Redskins are just all over the place right now. Like I said, the QB's a turnover machine, and that defense, Amari Cooper torched them. And like the Redskins have Josh Norman. Like if the number one receiver's in a Josh Norman, then the Eagles have so many weapons and Jeffrey, Ertz, Aguilar.
But
Tate.
they've been having trouble struggling to put it together. The offensive coordinator said it himself.
I don't know. That defense is very shaky, and I don't like them going into a road rivalry game against a much-needed win for the Eagles. I think
Much
the Eagles
needed for the Redskins, too. They're both jousting for second place in the NFC East right now.
I think the Cowboys run away with this division, but
Yeah,
we'll
and
see
who
what
would have
happens.
thought that a few weeks back? I mean, they were talking about Jason Garrett being on the hot seat. Now this team is riding a defense and an offense that's resurgent with Amari Cooper to be at the top of that division. I think regardless, though, bottom line is whoever comes out of that division, they're getting smacked in the first round of the playoffs.
I'll give you that one for sure. Moving on. So who do you think is the best team in college basketball right now?
Well, for me, I think it's a tough call. Obviously, Gonzaga, undefeated on the season. They're showing a lot to a lot of different people. Rui Hachimura, he's been fantastic. They don't even have Killian back yet. But Michigan makes a compelling case. But to me, I think I'm going to go where the talent is. I always like the preseason polls because it's an honest evaluation of the talent that's on the roster. And I think pretty unquestionably, Duke's got the most talent, right? And they have a deep team this year. You know, people like to talk about Trey Jones, Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish. But I think when you look at the guys on the bench, they got White, Delorier. You know, they got guys that come off the bench, these veteran captains, and they play quality minutes. And you know, they had an easy win against a one-win Stetson team a couple of days ago. And obviously people are saying, you know, what's the takeaway from that? But the defense, I thought, was spectacular in that game. And Stetson obviously doesn't have some prolific offense, but if you look at the KenPom ratings, Duke has been killing it in offensive and defensive efficiency. And I think that that's what's going to get them over the hump this year. They've always had some really talented teams under Coach K. I think this is the one that could bring them that national championship that's been a little bit elusive over the last 3 or 4 years.
There's no doubt they have talent. I mean, Zion's freaky athleticism. R.J. Barrett is terrific.
Yeah.
Cam Reddish is awesome, but I don't think the chemistry is all there yet. You saw them down. First of all, you saw the Gonzaga game. They definitely struggled there. The Zags were physical. If the team actually plays physical with them, like, they're gonna struggle because they're dominating these like sorry teams, and like they look, you know, Zion could just push everyone around.
I don't know.
But in
They
the
had
paint-
a good win against an Auburn team in the Maui Gym Bowl.
Right, but one of my concerns, the chemistry, like I was saying. Down the stretch, you just see Zion, R.J. Barrett just taking turns playing isolation ball. Zion's running into the paint like a bull, but there are 3 guys there.
Sure.
That's not – I don't think that's how you're going to win championships. I think you got to work the ball around, and just it has to be everyone has to be involved.
So who do you like as the best team then?
I really think Michigan is the best team in the nation. They might not be the most talented, but the offense is so balanced amongst Poole, Matthews, Teskey, Simpson. Everyone's involved. They work the ball around. That nobody hogs the ball. Beeline is debatably the best coach in college basketball. He runs a great system. I think, and now that they have probably the best defense in the nation, holding teams to 38.2% from the field, that is very impressive to me. They protect the home court really well. I think they'll get a high seed. And I think that since they all play together and good chemistry, I think that could lead to a championship. I really do.
Well, we'll have to see come March and April. Moving on to the next topic, we're talking about the MLB offseason. Robinson-Cano trade, Paxton trade. Jay-Z, what's your thoughts on the MLB offseason thus far?
I'll start with that Mets trade the other day. This seems like a typical Mets trade, honestly. They like to trade for these old. Robinson Cano is 36 years old, and he still has 5 years left on his contract. I think they owe him $100 million. I think that's a crazy amount for the player on the back nine of his career. He's definitely trending down, and it's like his fielding abilities are just gone now. Mm-hmm. So, and he's also took some time off after that suspension. As for Edwin Diaz, I think that's a good. He was definitely great last year. He was terrific. The Mets need bullpen help, but I believe there was an injury that they found out about.
A bone spur, I think.
Correct. So this seems like another typical Mets thing where they just can't keep their pitchers on the field, and then before you know it, they'll be bringing minor leaguers onto the field as usual.
Right. Well, look, the Mets were a real They were a disaster last year, unmitigated disaster under first-year manager Mickey Callaway. But that being said, this is a team that's built to win now. Between Wheeler, DeGrom, and Syndergaard, I'm hoping Syndergaard sticks around for it. Obviously, we'll have to see what the new GM does with regard to his upcoming contract extension. But I think the Mets are a team that's built to win now. And the bottom line is that this is a trade that makes them more competitive to win right now. Robbie Cano, despite the suspension, despite all the knocks about his contract, and being 36 years old, is still a 300 hitter. All right, he's a very quality guy to have in the lineup.
What, he dropped to 280 last year?
No, he was hitting 303.
Small
in
sample
80 games.
size, though. Small sample size.
Maybe. But this is a guy that for a long time has been well known to be one of the better hitters in baseball. And when you insert a guy into that 3 or 4
Back when he was on the Yankees.
Maybe. He's still been a very good hitter for the Mariners. All right, he's 2 seasons removed from hitting 36 home runs and 100 RBIs. Now, 36 years old, obviously, that has some warning flags. But the Mariners mitigated the contract by throwing $20 million to offset the $120 million deal he's got over the next 5 years. They sent $36 million in Swarzak and Bruce over to the Mariners. So it's not like it's a total disaster from a contract perspective. And in addition, Diaz is a fantastic player. 57 saves last year, 24 years old. The Mets got better at every facet offensively and in the bullpen where they needed help the most. I think that this makes them so much more competitive, and if they can put some more pieces on this team from an offensive perspective, I think that they have as good a shot for contending for a playoff
It definitely
spot.
gives them a better chance this season, but the bats still aren't there. I don't think Robinson Cano's saving the day. Like I said, he's 36. He's winding down, and it needs to be you have to have a lineup with depth like the New York Yankees.
All right, maybe, but Jeff McNeil, who is now probably likely to be put into more of a utility role now that Robinson Cano is going to come in and play second, even though he's got, I will admit, he's got antiquated defensive abilities. But that being said, I think that the Mets have some solid players on their team. They've always been bitten by the injury bug pretty hard in the dog days. So
I'll let you get your hopes up as usual. I remember him telling me when the Mets started 11-1, this is the best team in New York. I go, just you wait. And what happens? Yankees flip the switch. And
you know a little bit something. You know a little bit about the injury bug, though, all right?
Yeah. Winners win, losers lose.
Okay.
All right, next topic. All right, Michigan football. Let's jump into it. It was definitely a rough finish. It was very anticlimactic finish, honestly, after the revenge tour and what a great season it was. What do you think is the outlook for Michigan football?
Well, first of all, before we say anything about the program, the athletic department, the coaching staff, wherever they're headed in the future, I think the players obviously gave it everything they got. You know, anyone that's going to go out and blame the team, the guys that were in the game, I think is wrong. They gave it their all. You know, they put in so much work, I'm sure, in the offseason and during the season to put together a championship caliber team, and it didn't come together, and that happens sometimes. But when we're talking about the coaching staff, you know, Jim Harbaugh, 4 years in a row, 4 losses to Ohio State. It's a glaring hole on his resume that he's not really been able to deliver in the big games. And honestly, I don't think this team has looked the same since that Iowa game 3 years ago. They just come into big games either unprepared or wholly outcoached, whatever it may be. And Ohio State exposed the fact that Michigan was probably a pretty overrated defense going into the year. They hadn't played many defense or offenses that had explosive potential. The Ohio State Buckeye offense is probably the best in the Big Ten. Obviously, Haskins is a dynamic player, but they got killed in the air. They got killed on the ground. I think that Harbaugh deserves at least one more year with this program, but if they lose to Ohio State again, I'd say that the boosters probably have pretty good reason to be on his case, and the athletic department might have to move on from him at that point.
Yeah, time is ticking. I can't argue with you here. Like it's crazy. The Michigan team just doesn't show up in these big games, and Ohio State, it's like a mental thing at this point also. But that game, as bad as our defense looked, I think the game could have been a lot closer if like you said, Jim Harbaugh changes his coaching plan.
Right.
He's I can't believe how many times he ran the football, and he ran it right up the middle where it wasn't working. He would even run it on second and long.
Right.
And we're playing from behind. You got to be throwing the ball. You got to expose this defense. Nebraska was able to score on them. Maryland was able to score on them. They gave them tight games, you know. Also, you got to get more pressure on the QB. You got to send the house.
Right.
Nobody else even let up 62 points, and what's amazing is that we played these other teams so much better than Ohio State did. So it's really crazy to think.
So where's this program going in the next 3 years, 5 years?
I still think things are trending up. Honestly, we really did have a good season. I think we have a bunch of good recruits. I like Dylan McCaffrey for next year.
Sure.
Or Shea Patterson. I think Shea really improved as the season went on. We still have some good players on defense left, like Uche. He was terrific this year.
Sure.
I think next year is our best shot to do it.
Really? Better than this year?
It's not
I don't think it got easier than this year. I mean, you talk about a Big Ten that pretty much beat it up on itself the whole year. Wisconsin wasn't really competitive. Michigan State wasn't really competitive. Penn State, I mean, they were really not very good this year. I mean, they're already talking about James Franklin making the jump to USC out in California. That being said, I think that the conference is only going to get better. I mean, Nebraska is going to come back into the play, right? I mean, Iowa is always a competitive team with Kirk Ferentz. You know, playing them at home is always a nightmare. And Ohio State, this was the worst Ohio State team that has been under Urban Meyer in his 7 years there. This is probably the best team that Michigan has had in 10 years, and they still couldn't get the job.
You're not wrong, but I still think that they played bad competition. As good as they were, they played bad competition all year, like we were just saying. I think Ohio State played down to their competition. Clearly, they straightened everything up when they played us. I mean, the defense was stout, and the offense was proficient. And I think next year is the year. It's not that the team's going to be much better, is that we have Ohio State at home and Notre Dame at home. We are significantly better at the Big House.
Right.
And I think if the time is next year if we're going to take care of business.
Well, old Brooklyn Dodgers adage, there's always next year. That's going to become a new motto, I think, for Michigan football fans for a few years now. But
that sounds like the Mets motto, too.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. The New York carryover, I think, is it's remarkable. It's remarkable. I'm Alex File.
Justin Zach.
Thanks for joining us today on Hold Up. We'll catch you next week or whenever the next time the show is, and I'm not sure when that'll be. We're going on a little vacation soon, and you know,
we'll be back before you know it, though.
Yeah, exactly. Take it easy. But it didn't come up.